Y'all, things are getting intense in the life simulation world right now, and ever since EA's buyout news dropped, the Paralives developers have been under a lot of pressure. Simmers are very hyped and the expectations are sky high due to the unfortunate bugs and glitches, and now the developers for Paralives team have been faced under massive pressure. They have been compared to The Sims, stating this is going to be the Sims killer and that they're the new rivals and that they're the new competition. And you guys, I just don't think it's fair to compare The Sims to Paralives. They're two totally different games with massive different budgets. But we're going to be talking all about that later on today. But before I do want to say what is up, guys. My name is Yen. I play simulation games. Did you see what I did there? And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. We're going to be talking all about what is going on in the simulation world regarding Paralives and the brand new life sim that is coming out in just 5 weeks of early access. That's right, the long-awaited life simulation game that has been teased over the course of years is finally here, and we're going to be talking everything new coming to Paralives, all the features that have dropped in the last month. Of course, Alex and the developers who have been at work very hard over the past couple of years. Now, we do know that this game came out of talks in 2019, and since then, a lot of simmers have had a lot of eyes on Paralives. So a lot of people are wondering what is going to be going on. And honestly, if you played The Sims for years like I have, you probably noticed how things haven't, it's gotten a little rocky between the EA buyout, the bugs, the glitches, and, all the DLC packs that have its own set of controversy. And a lot of long-term players are feeling a little burnt out, and honestly, I do not blame them. So with all that frustration in the air, people are turning their eyes into Paralives, and it's an indie simulation game that might be the fresh start that a lot of simmers are looking for. I do love this classic style that they're trying to go with. It's very original, and they've been very transparent throughout their entire process, especially if you're over on Patreon. They have a lot of speed builds, the life goals requests that they are now entering, and there's a new build mode that they have, as well as the para maker. So they're going into detail of all the process, which I do love about this indie studio, because this is the kind of transparency that a lot of people have wanted to see for a very long time. Now, if you guys aren't really familiar about this is based in Montreal, and right now the team is about 15 people strong. And what's really cool about this is and how transparent they are with the community is they do post regular development, and they have community discussions over on Discord, YouTube, and of course if you're on Twitter, they have been replying, which we're going to get into in just a little bit. So I do want to talk about that the Paralives will not follow the paid expansion or stuff pack model that EA uses with The Sims. Instead, the developers have promised that all major updates will be free and the game will continue to evolve after launch without locking new content behind microtransactions. I don't know if they can promise that forever, but I do know throughout early access, and while it's still in early access, the DLC will be free, similar to Enjoy. Now, the game is set to launch early access on December 8th, and for both PC and Mac, and the plan is to grow alongside the community. And honestly, I don't know about y'all, but that's the kind of approach we haven't seen in a genre for a very long time. And again, people are starting to pay attention on exactly the process. So now there's expectations already have been made. And with that can start a lot of comparison, unfortunately, in the Sims community for these indie game developers who are really just dealing with what the budget that they have for this game. And I want to quickly go over an article. Of course, everything will be linked down below in the description. And it was an article early on where they asked Alex, who is the founder, stating, "I got really inspired by City Skyline and its roll tool. You can easily create straight or curved roads of any length without being restricted to a grid. And I thought to myself, this would be really, really well for placing walls and building houses. It would allow players to be more creative." He did also state that I decided to start with build mode first because it makes sense to create the environment of your characters in live mode in first, and again, I feel like we need to go ahead and reiterate that, because this is not The Sims, this is Paralives, and he already stated that he is heavily inspired by City Skylines around the world tool. But again, a lot of simmers just can't help but, go ahead and, compare. I do want to move on to this next topic, and Paralives did release this little clip of, the pair of folks texting and just demonstrating the interactions that they can now use with the phone. As you guys can see, Florence is ordering, there's pizza, cleaning service, etc. And immediately someone was like, well, why can't he order pizza? Someone said it's just a glitch, it's one of the options now. Unfortunately, the male was unable to hold the phone, and someone else was like, well, why is the dollar sign on the wrong side? And they did have to quickly address this, and then they stated in some places the currency sign can be on the right too, but we'll update the in-game currency icon and placement soon. Now, again, they did have to address even more things such as gardening, because a lot of people were saying we want plants to be alive, and they said gardening won't be available right away, but will be a feature we'll add during the early access period. Check out this post for more detail. And it's just little things like that where I'm just like, you guys, they're an indie game. They're doing the best they can and what they can go about with. As y'all can see, this is an indie game. They do not make a bunch of money. They're not a billion-dollar corporation like The Sims, and I feel like people are very quick to state and already have high expectations of, this is what we want, you better get to it or else we're not going to play this game. They did say so far from some neighborhoods they did draw inspiration from European historic city centers, but also from the province of Quebec, Canada, where our team is from, and because a lot of people were stating about diversity. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like they have been very transparent in regards to representation and diversity, and they said that there's going to be a lot more things added even after early access, but they are trying to include as much as possible. So there's just little things here and there, but I do want to move over to the Sims context. And we do know that unfortunately, due to the recent EA buyout, a lot of, Simmers have been leaving the EA creator network and stating that they were going to broaden the horizon with other games, and that other game leads to Paralives. So the development team has been under a lot of pressure with a lot of eyes all on them, stating, well, we hope that this is going to be the next big game that we can put our eyes to instead of The Sims. I do want to quickly zoom out for a second and talk about why so many people are hyped for Paralives in the first place. And we do know that for over 20 years, The Sims has completely dominated the life simulation space. And while it's still massively popular, let's be real, it's been very frustrating. And, a lot of players are tired of the bugs, and they're tired of the content packs and the tiny packs, and tired of watching EA prioritize monetization over creativity. And, there's a whole EA buyout situation, that controversy that has just, it's not going to be stopped and talked about until the deal, has gone over. And social media and Reddit, you can see comments like, Paralives is our last hope, please let this be a good one. And that's why the indie team at Paralives Studios suddenly finding themselves under the spotlight, and people are like really desperate for a new life sim that feels player focused and customizable and fun. And I feel like it's just not fair to put that pressure on them, and Paralives might just they just might deliver it. I'm not saying that they can't, but it's designed to be an open world, no loading screens, tons of personality systems. We know that. I think that's an awesome thing. And then they included that there's going to be mods involved. But I feel like it's basically saying, we know what you wanted from The Sims and we're going to try to give it to you, but you guys are forcing that onto them. They never stated that. They're not trying to be The Sims. They're trying to be Paralives. And I do feel like, I feel like as much as people are excited, they're also putting a lot of pressure. And because of everything that's going on with The Sims, people are, just putting a lot of hope into this game. And I feel like it's not a bad thing to put hope into Paralives. The community isn't just saying, we hope it's good. They're saying, please save the life simulation genre. Don't mess this up. We need it. We want it. It's our last hope. And the truth is, this is still an early access indie game, and it's going to grow, improve, and evolve over time, y'all. Time. And that's okay. And I feel like Alex, who's the creator of Paralives, has even said that they're not rushing. They want to build Paralives at their own pace and with love and attention to detail, and not because of external pressure, which a lot of people have been putting on them. And honestly, as a community, we need to remember that if we want this game to succeed, we've got to give the developers the space to breathe, not just, put a bunch of weight and expectations onto them, because the last thing anyone wants is us putting all this pressure onto them and then into our next disappointment simply because we demanded perfection too soon, y'all. And I see that happening again. They have been very transparent throughout their whole process, and I'll actually link this down below if any of you guys are interested in seeing, the timestamps of what they've been developing over the course of the past 5 years and what's still to come. I do want to say that some of the biggest features like weather in season and pets and vehicles, family trees, and deeper, NPC story progressions, they're all still in development, and those systems are expected to roll out gradually over time, and that modding support is also already confirmed. So there's a lot of things to go about here, and I do want to have like an honest take really quickly and talk about my thoughts and opinions just in general. And Paralives does to me look very promising, and after I've seen every time step, I'm very excited for early access. I will definitely 100% be reviewing this, and to me, their attention to detail with the transparency and, just listening to players' feedback, I feel like this is something that's going to change the way we play this game. And because we know that where they're coming from, and even if it's not perfect when we first start playing it, they're so transparent that as of right now, that I'm just like, gotta keep these in perspective, y'all. This isn't a $1 billion project. It's a small, team trying to give us something genuine, I feel. And if we wanted to succeed, I feel like, patience and no pressure is the best way to go about this. And just to allow them to make mistakes and let them build, on this game. So, because if Paralives delivers on even half of what it's promising, it could, I think personally, be a really cool life sim. So I don't know, y'all let me know, do you think the community is putting too much pressure on the Paralives team, or do you think that the pressure is exactly what's motivating them to make something so great that we're all excited to play later on this year? So let me know. Again, y'all, this is coming out in just 5 weeks of early access, so there's a lot to anticipate here. But with all that being said, whether you're a silent viewer, you like my videos, you comment my videos, or you share my videos, at the end of the day, you still show me some love, and for that I thank you. I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye.